Once again, it was a case of so near and yet so far for the Indian women's hockey team. Now, remember, the Indian women's hockey team had made it through to the semi-finals and were facing the mighty Australia. So obviously, there was going to be some sort of an expectation that India would be coming into this match as an underdog. However, what happened in the semi-final, well, it's going to be leaving a bitter taste in the mouth of many, and not just due to the fact that India lost. Unfortunately, some of the circumstances surrounding this match, it's going to be a major talking point for a little while yet to come. And yes, as expected, the comments are rolling and people are asking what exactly was that which happened with the clock. So before we go into what happened with the match, or go into too much detail over what happened, let's just talk about the fact that the match ended at 1-1 in regulation time, and after that, of course, it went to a shootout. Now, unfortunately, the shootout started with an Australian player whose attempt was then saved by Indian goalkeeper Savita. So, but however, that attempt did not actually end up counting because the referees said very clearly that the clock hadn't started, and so because of that, the attempt would have to be retaken. Naturally, the Indian players and coaching management were not happy about that. But the rule is indeed, the rule was that the clock hadn't started, and unfortunately, because of the fact that the Indian players were quite clearly affected by that, because it was a very very good start to the shootout that they managed to save the first shot. Unfortunately, because they were a little bothered, Australia ended up scoring three, India ended up missing three, and it was a pretty damp squib of an exit from, of course, uh, the Commonwealth Games. Unfortunate, but the ladies will still have the they still have the bronze shootout. But of course, people will naturally be aggrieved at the fact that such an error, such a basic schoolboy error, is happening at a tournament which is of international level. It's a pretty big level tournament, the Commonwealth Games, and such errors shouldn't in fact be happening. So obviously, there's going to be a sense of injustice. There's going to be a sense of unfairness as to how things proceeded. However, it is indeed worth noting that the Indian players too could have done a little better in their penalties, in their shootouts, because more often than not, the Indian players looked a little lost. And the sad reality of sport at the elite level is that you will often be faced with such situations in a match, and that the best thing that you can do at that point to actually put it behind you is to go about with your business. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but let's take nothing away from just the kind of performance that this was from the Indian women's hockey team. Remember, they were trailing the match before the shootout. They were trailing 1-0 for the most part of the match. It was only in the final quarter that India actually ended up coming back into the game. They scored that equalizing goal, but don't let that scoreline fool you. 1-1 might seem like it was a bit of a damp match, a bit of a damp squib of a match, but that wasn't actually the case at all. The Indians were very, very, very good. They made a lot of chances. They could have converted their penalty corners a little better, and there were a few chances. There were quite a few chances when they did actually penetrate the circle, and at that point they could have been more clinical and finished better. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen. But in the second half, particularly in the third and fourth quarters, India attacked very very well, and more obviously, what was also worth noting was that they were even defending more resolutely. The Aussies were attacking a lot, but India stood firm, and you did get the feeling that if India did manage to take it to a shootout, it might actually kind of be a bit of a leveler, because shootouts, even if you have practiced or if you haven't practiced, can be a bit of a lottery. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and doubtless people will, of course, point to the fact that that clock start-stop controversy did indeed affect India's momentum, and it is undoubtedly something that shouldn't have been happening at this level. Doubtless, there's going to be plenty of calls for an inquest as to what exactly happened there and why exactly it happened. Unfortunately, none of that distracts from the fact that the sad reality is that the Indian women's team, very unfortunately, lost out on this match thanks to losing out in the shootout. Now, of course, don't forget India will be contesting the bronze medal match too, so there is still some hope that the women will come back home with a medal. So obviously, there is still chances that a medal can indeed come. So that is the major hope at this point. Unfortunately, this is the kind of defeat that would leave a bad taste in the mouth of many. And to answer your questions, to take a few questions, Kishore Creations asking, yes, if can we win a bronze? Yes, we can, because the Indian team did actually pretty well. It's no mean feat taking this Australia team to a shootout, so they did well enough. The hope now would be that they can bring a bronze, but there is still disappointment, obviously, that they could have actually done much better, and they could probably be in the final right about now, and it would have been a major, major, major win. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, drop us a comment, let us know how exactly you feel about the nature of this loss. Subscribe to the channel, don't forget to tap the bell icon, and of course, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Last but not least, download the AajTak app. Thank you all for joining us, and bye-bye for now.